Thursday, the 2nd of November. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Chrome 119 is out, patching 15 vulnerabilities. Some of them are quite reasonable vulnerabilities, but either way, best to make sure that if you're using Chrome, you are up to date. So I think it's 5 or so, three are high, insufficient data validations, those sorts of things, integer overflows, blah, blah, blah. The rest are mediums or lows. But if you haven't already updated, you should. You're aiming for 119.0.6045.105 for Linux and Mac, and 119.0.6045 0.105/0.106. So I suppose 105 or 106 for Windows. So yeah, patch if you can. Meta is facing well, maybe a ban, maybe not a ban, maybe more legal action. I'm not sure. In the EU, because Facebook and Instagram have ignored the Norwegian data protection authorities' ban on targeted advertisements. So the EU on the 27th of October has sent out an urgent binding decision instructing Ireland's Data Protection Commission to ban the processing of personal data for behavioural advertising across the entire European Economic Area. There's a 2-week lead time for this, so you've got to be compliant within 2 weeks. I think it's a very interesting point. I can see that if you are concerned about privacy, the things that go on in the background, especially at historically, especially at Facebook, would leave you going, I didn't really think they were going to do that, or I didn't give them permission to do that. Well, the other side of it is, if you can't use any personal information at all when selecting adverts, it massively reduces the value to the advertiser, and actually it just turns adverts into an irritation rather than being something which is not potentially useful, but at least it feels like that in some way or another, stuff that you might be interested in, they get better at it. But so I don't know. I mean, I suppose the third point on this, in my mind, is that's all well and good, but what if you're perfectly happy with having personalized adverts, and what if you're happy for Meta to be using personal information for this sort of form of targeted behavioral advertising? I don't know. I mean, I'm I don't know. I'm sort of ambivalent about the whole thing, really. No, I don't like the idea that corporate organisations capture a vast amount of data and then do with it things that you would be, as a general member of the public, you would not expect, and you would probably not agree to if you'd have understood it. But the other side of it is, I'm equally, probably even more, adverse to the fact that political bureaucrats, especially undemocratic, unelectable um, bureaucrats or politicians, can make up laws like this that then have a direct impact on business and on the citizens of their countries, um, without actually getting uh, the authority to do that from the people who are being affected. Do you see what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, unelected bureaucrats making laws is one of my pet hates. You know, make of that what you will. But at least if somebody is going to be making a law, I would like it to be able. I would like to be able to vote for or against that, at least in principle. And if I don't like it, I would like to be able to, at the next election, get rid of them and get whatever it is overturned, if that's the democratic will um, of the population. So this, I think, will have quite significant knock-on effects. I feel sorry for the smaller businesses that are generating revenue via Meta. Partly blame Meta for being just for the things that they do that you would really wish they wouldn't do. But equally, it would be very sad for small businesses to then have sales or cash flow problems because their adverts are no longer targeted at people who might be actually genuinely interested in buying the products. So one could try and spark a debate. I'm not sure there's really a debate to be had because the people making these rules are unelectable anyway. Let's see where we go with that one. We've recently been on a different subject completely. We've recently been talking about the risks of using SIM-based 2FA, so a text-based 2FA, and SIM swapping attacks. And I think most people, well, yeah. So firstly, any form of 2FA is better than no form of 2FA. No form of security is ever final in the sense of that's it, you never need to do anything ever again. So text-based MFA, I think, was a very good idea to get people's heads around how simple 2FA is. You don't need apps, you don't need to typing in numbers that keep changing whilst you're looking at them. You don't need to carry around USB sticks with certificates on them and all these sort of complicated things. It just sends you a text message or and bang, off you go. Well, hey, the problem is though that the mobile providers, the telecoms, really have done nothing to secure mobile networks, or nothing. That's not true. I'm sure they have, but it's still functionally. SIM swapping is remarkably easy to do, and it happens in the real world. So there's an article on the Register about a real world example of this, where a medical research business executive had their number transferred to a SIM that was under the control of some attackers, and was then used to exfiltrate 120 gigs worth of confidential data about customers, patients, employees, blah blah blah. So whilst we as a company would thoroughly recommend using 2FA on everything that will do 2FA, if you understand your own threat landscape, as in this particular person could have probably worked out that they were going to be a target because they're in an industry which is heavily targeted, and they're at a level where compromise of the account would give attackers access to all sorts of things that they would find profitable. So, if you are in that situation, or for accounts where it actually matters that you maintain control of the account, bank accounts, investments, cryptocurrencies, financial stuff, legal documents, there's a whole load of things. Using text-based 2FA, or I would argue, I suspect also email-based 2FA, is not really adequate. So recommend that full of recommendations, aren't I? But it would be a good idea to encourage senior people in your own organisations to get their heads around something like Google Authenticator, but lots of other, most password managers now offer 2FA solutions as part of the password manager. If you can use a password manager, you can use it to generate the codes and so on and so forth. So you can integrate this stuff. It isn't just, you're not just stuck with Google Authenticator or some of the open source things that were kicking around a few years ago, all of which are very good and remain perfectly acceptable. But go for something that's harder, or go for, we've had some discussions, haven't we, recently, about the efficacy of using biometrics and passkey approaches. I think probably the jury's out on that, as far as I'm concerned at the moment. Perfectly good in certain situations. Still waiting to see what happens when somebody steals the digital fingerprint and works out how to inject that through side loading or whatever it is in the path of authentication for devices, so on and so forth. Think about that one. And then finally, from me today, as you are probably aware, there has been a summit around global AI that's been hosted by the UK government in Bletchley, as Bletchley calls itself, the home of code breakers. So Bletchley Park. There's been an agreement signed. I think it was yesterday, with some 28 countries in total, to cooperate to manage the risks associated with emerging artificial intelligence tools, especially in relation to cybersecurity. AI seems to polarize people's opinions. It's either the thing which will save the world, or it's the thing which will cause the downfall of humanity. I think it's very difficult to know. I mean, somewhere in the middle will be where it actually lands. It is, though, I think, definitely true that AI will make cyber warfare easier and cyber criminality easier. I also think it doesn't make the slightest bit of difference what treaties or declarations or anything else that the world's governments sign up to. This stuff exists now, and it's not going to be possible to put the genie back in the bottle. We've been through the whole, oh my goodness, machine learning is going to fix the world, destroy the world. So we've had, behavioral this, that, whatever. Well, actually, I think AI is on the cusp of actually being pretty damn good. But we have noticed that AI has some worrying signs. There's a distinct lack of interest in truth, which is curious. And you could probably code one that does care about the truth, but now we've discovered ones that don't. The potential for disinformation is quite high. And there will become a point, I suspect, where AI will start coding up AI. So watch out for Terminators. Skynet will will gain consciousness or whatever it was. Oh dear, I can't remember the quotes anymore. In the near future, regardless of Sunak's well-intended summit in Bletchley that is going on at the moment. Well, that's a bit of a waffle from me today, but that's the state of things at the moment. Hope you're surviving the storm if you're in the south of England. Hope the rest of you are having a great day, and I will speak